Anyone?
Maybe mind body control is called Ashtanga yoga. I'm just guessing, I'm not very sure.
That's okay. We are all students here. We learn from our own experiences, right? There's no right or wrong answer, but it's just how we feel it. So just one perception. So very rightly said, Chaya ma'am. It is what actually we feel, right? What we control. But Ashtanga, the word Ashtanga, which means the 8 limbs of yoga, and it is once again our own Maharishi Patanjali who classified this in the classical yoga, which is set out in the Yoga Sutras. So he defined this 8 limbs as yamas, which is abstinences, the niyama, which is the observances, asana, which is the postures, the pranayama, which is the breathing, pratyahara, which is a sense withdrawal, dharana, which is the concentration, and dhyana, samadhi, is what Ashtanga Yoga talks about. So dhyana is meditation again, and samadhi is the spiritual absorption. So the first uh, 4 limbs, right? The yama, niyama, asana, pranayama is the external disciplines through which we practice. The last 3 principles or the last 3 disciplines, right? The dharana, dhyana, samadhi is all the internal disciplines. So all these 8 limbs form a sequence from the outer layer to the inner layer of our body. So the postures is actually important in the modern yoga or the exercise, not just from the limb of Patanjali's scheme, but he states that they must be steadily and comfortably attained. So the main aim is kaivalya, which is the decrement of the Purusha, the witness of the conscious principle, as it separates from the Prakriti or the Purusha principle, the cognitive approaches, and the disentanglement of the Purusha from its muddled disimplements, right? This is what it is. So now we'll further classify this. And the aim of the Yoga Darshan is to still the disturbance of the mind so that the self can be liberated. So, like you said, Chaya ma'am, it is a control of the mind and also the senses, right? Through which we can attain liberation. So, to help to calm the mind of Yoga Darshan, he proposes, which is Maharishi Patanjali proposed the Ashtanga Yoga. He was the one who propounded this. And as we talked about, Ashtanga Yoga is the 8 limbed yoga formed of 8 parts, which is why it is called as Ashtanga Yoga, and which is one of the form of Raja Yoga that we follow. And we spoke about the Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So let's further break this down and understand what these are all about. So the Yamas are the physical restraints or the ethical restraints or the moral imperatives. So these are the observances that govern the social equation of an individual with the others. The main purpose of yama is to refine the character and conduct and purify the mind and the body for the self transformations. So the yamas are 5 in numbers, which is ahimsa, called as non-violence, non-violence in thought, words, and deeds. Then we have the satya, which is the truthfulness, being truthful in both words and desires, desires and deeds. When we have the astaya, which is non-stealing, no desire to have other people's belonging. And we have the brahmacharya, which is celibacy, which is moderation in sensual pleasures. And then we have the aparigraha, which is the non-possession. Be happy with what you have, is what the yamas talks about. Then we have the niyama. So niyama are the physical restraints or the observances that governs with an individual, personal, or life. And again, niyamas are broken down into 5 subsections, which is shaucha, santosha, tapa, swadhyaya, and ishvara pranidhana. So shaucha is physical or mental purity. Santosha is contentment, an ever-present happy state of mind. Tapaha, which is austerities or tolerating challenges or hurdles. Then swadhyaya is self-study or practice of scriptures, satsang, and cultivate knowledge, right? And we have the Ishvara Parindana, which is the complete surrender to the God or Ishvara. The next one is asanas. So Maharishi Maharishi Patanjali talks about asanas, which is the body postures, and he says why it is so important. So he says that the postures, when it is stable and comfortable, when practiced, it gives us the strength and flexibility to the body and the mind, so that one is able to sit for a long time for a prayer or meditation. So these asanas relate to the physical or the mental health, and they are the meditative poses, right? And Maharishi Patanjali further emphasizes that the practice of asana should become effortless and graceful, and the mind should attain divinity or the divine bliss. And next one, we have the pranayama. So pranayama is the fourth subsection of the Ashtanga Yoga, where prana means the life force and ayama means stretching out. So pranayama is actually stretching off our breath or regulating our breath in order to make it longer and settle. And by controlling the breath or the inhalation and the exhalation process, this is the process of pranayama. So pranayama makes the mind and a body fit for the next stage, which is the pratyahara. So pratyahara means the sense withdrawal or the preoccupation, where respective sense organs or sense objects, like we withdraw the mind from something else, like a tortoise which withdraws its heads into its limbs or its shell, right? Which is called pratyahara. It forms as a bridge between the first four steps. So pratyahara is a bridge between the first four and the last four, right? So this helps in transition of the mind and the body. And when the focus is shifted from the outer world to that of the inner world, we attain concentration, right? So concentration or dharana is what next limb or the um, next subsection of Ashtanga Yoga it is. So dharana can also be told as desa bandha chittasya dharana, which means confinement to chitta to one place is called dharana. So we talked about chitta, right, which is the mind stuff or mind field. So when we confine all this, when we bring this into control, dharana is attained. So this is the first stage of the meditation, when the mind is detached from the objects or the focus is shifted from any other object to the meditator's choice, is called dharana. And the next stage or the step, once the concentration is attained, we lead it to dhyana, which is the meditation. So tatra pratyaya ekatanta dhyanam. So when the mind becomes successful in concentration, that's when uninterrupted experiences is experienced, or only one object or one focus, dhyana is attained. So in all dhyana, the efforts are redirected towards keeping the distractions away and looking into our own self. So looking into our own mirror, right? And when these efforts are succeeded and when there's no distraction, that's where dhyana is obtained. And once dhyana is obtained and the spiritual absorption happens, this leads to samadhi. So tat eva artha mantra nirbhasam swarupa shunyam eva dhyanam is what the last part of Ashtanga Yoga, or the last limb of Ashtanga Yoga says. And this is taken from the Yoga Sutra 3.3 version, where it says that the self nature, when the self nature is not present and the object shines forth, it is dhyana. Or in dharana and dhyana, the three elements are the meditator, the object of meditation, and the process of meditation. The state of samadhi is obtained. In the state of samadhi, the meditator, the process of meditator disappears and object of the meditation shines forth. So this is what Ashtanga Yoga talks about. These are the 8 subsections we have. And moving on to that, we have something called as the Hatha Yoga. So the Hatha Yoga lineage starts from Lord Shiva, and we know who Lord Shiva is, right? He is the Adi Yoga or the Adinath. And Hatha Yoga's founder was Swami Swatparama, who is the author, and he is a Hatha Yoga Pratipika, and he was a disciple of Yogi Gorakhnath. And Yogi Gorakhnath was a disciple himself of Yogi Matsyendranath. So the term Hatha Yoga is at times wrongly misunderstood as stubbornness or persisting beyond someone's limit, right? And the Hatha Yoga term is symbolically used. So Hatha is two words, and Hatha is the union of two letters, as we spoke about, right? Where Ha and Tha are the two words. Ha means the Surya Swar or the sun channel, and Tha is the moon channel or the Chandra Swar, which is the broken down again into Ida Nadi and Pingla Nadi. So Ha is the sun channel, Tha is the moon channel, which is the Ida and Pingla Nadi. So Ha represents the pranic energy, which is the dynamic and active element. The Tha represents the manasic or the mental energy, which is a subtle force. So when this comes into or merges or converges, right, this brings the balance between the Surya and the Chatuswar. When the Idam Nadi and the Pingla Nadi is attained, the Kundalini Jagran or the awakening happens, which is latent stage, and that would be awakened through the Shushubna Nadi, which starts from our Muladhara Chakra to our Sahasrara Chakra, which is an upward journey. So it crosses all the chakras while heading towards the Sahasrara Chakra. This is where the ultimate Brahman concept attains, right? This is where we attain bliss. So this is the union of the Atma and the Paramatma. When this is practiced, the ignorance of the practitioner disappears, he gets enlightenment, and he is blissful. So all his sufferings are vanished. So this is the ultimate meaning of Hatha Yoga, right? And the aim of Hatha Yoga is to control the body and the mind. So the Hatha Yoga Pratipikas or Hatha Yogis believe that without strengthening the body and mind, no spiritual absorption or no spiritual endeavor is possible. So the Hatha Yoga Pratipika described the four angas, just like the Ashtanga Yoga or the Raja Yoga, we have 8 angas, right? The Hatha Yoga Pratipika has the 4 angas or 4 parts of practice, which is asana, pranayama, mudra, and nadanu sadhana. So they talk about all these 4 elements, which is a little bit different from the Ashtanga Yoga. The most 2 important textbooks or the text of Hatha Yoga are the Hatha Yoga Pratipika, which is by Swami Swatarama himself, which was dated back from the 16th century. And the Hatha Yoga's another text is starting from the Gherenda Samhita, which is by Swami Gherenda, and it dates back to the 17th century. So the Hatha Yoga Pratipika says that a yogi should eat food that is simple and has sattvic qualities. So they have a different dietary practice, or they follow a different food or a lifestyle choice in terms of eating habits, right? So they call it as a mitahara, where the yogi should eat that is food which is simple and which has a good quality. And further down, we have the qualities, right, which is Bhadaka Tattva and Sadhaka Tattva. The Hatha Yogi Pratipikas further describe this into 2 different subsections, which is the causes of failure, which is the Bhadaka Tattva, and causes of success, which is the Sadhaka Tattva. So this is what Hatha Yoga talks about. And last but not least, we have the shudkarmas, right? Shudkarmas are actually yogic techniques to cleanse the internal organs. The cleaning happens in very harmonious flow through pranas, right? We saw what is pranayama, and it happens through the nadis and the ida and the pingala, which helps to balance or bring the balance to the body or the mind. Any idea how many nadis do we have within ourselves?
72,000.
Okay.
72 or 25,000 nadis.
Okay. Okay. Great. So what is nadis actually? Any idea?
They are the nerves that
Connect to the
transform our blood to all over the
1%
body.
at time. Okay.
collect the information and send to the mind.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Madhavi and Chaya. So let's further talk about the concept of the nadis, which is the Ida, Pingala, and the Shushubna. So as we talked about pranayama, right? The prana is responsible for all the functions in the human body. The prana represents the passages, or prana moves through the different channels or passages in the human body, which is called as nadi. So they are like a thread which cannot be seen, which cannot be felt, but it is present in our body. So it's not a single part. It may be small, it may be big, but it is, everything is connected by nadi. So when it comes to the word nadi, right, it comes from, again, a Sanskrit word, a root word, which is called as nada, which means flow. That is called as nadi. So nadi is, in other term, is called as flow of vibration. So there are different texts or different inscription that says that it varies somewhere between 72,000 to 72 crores. And according to our syllabus, right, which we have somewhere around 72 crores, 72 lakhs, 10,102 nadis in our body. So those three nadis are the threads, which is Ida Nadi, Pingala Nadi, and the Shushumna Nadi. So these are like the DNA threads that we have. Have you seen our DNA, which is crisscross, right? This is how it looks like for us in our bodies, which cannot be seen, but this is the mere representation or understanding how nadis are there. So the nadis are thin strand-like threads that evolve from the spinal column, right? Most importantly, the Ida, Pingala, Shushumna Nadi that we talk about, where the Ida starts from the left side of the Muladhara, which is our root, right? The spinal bone, the tailbone, that's where the Muladhara is present, below that. And above the pelvic region is where we have the Muladhara. So it starts from the left side of the Muladhara, traveling spirally upwards towards the spinal column. Up to the left nostril is where the Ida Nadi. So the Ida Nadi represents the Manashakti, or the mental force. It is the moon channel, which is anabolic and constructive in nature. It is the energy that conserves, right, and gives a cooling effect to our body. So it is denoted as the female aspect, and the color representation is blue for the Ida Nadi. And moon is the deity for this Ida Nadi, which is also called as the Chandra Nadi. And it is associated with the PNS, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, and it creates relaxation throughout the body, which lowers our body temperature. Then we have the Pingala Nadi. So the Pingala Nadi starts from the right side of the Muladhara, traveling towards the spinal column, and opening through the right nostril. And it is the positive channel, which is present on the right side, which is also called as the Prana Shakti, or the dynamic energy. So this is responsible for all the activities that are destructive or catabolic in nature. It consumes a lot of energy. The left side is energy giving, and this one consumes energy. So this produces heat, or heat generated in our body. It is also called as the male aspect of energy, and the color representation is red. So sun is the symbol deity of the Pingala Nadi, which is also called as the Surya Nadi. It is associated with the sympathetic nervous system, which is called as the SNS, which is producing heat and giving energy to us. So next one, or the last one, is the Shushumna Nadi. It starts from the base that you spoke, right? The Muladhara, or the root chakra. And it goes straight upwards along the spinal cord and reaches the brain, which is the Sahasrara chakra. So normally the Shushumna lies dormant, which is like an unblown lotus, like this. And through different practices like yogic sadhana, when the prana is directed to enter the Shushumna Nadi, when the Ida and the Pingala is all balanced, it gives rise to Kundalini awakening. So when the prana enters the highest point in the brain, this is where the self-realization takes place. So the Ida Nadi and the Pingala Nadi and the Shushumna Nadi, all three originate at the Muladhara chakra, or the root chakra. And this place is called as Mukta Triveni, which is called three, which is why it's called Mukta Triveni. The Ida, Pingala, and Shushumna converge at this point on this chakra where it originates from. And once they travel spirally towards the Sahasrara chakra, they culminate, or they interject at the Agnya chakra, which is called as the Yukta Triveni. So the Ida Nadi moves through the left, Pingala moves to the right nostril respectively, while the Sushumna moves to the Sahasrara chakra on the center. So once this happens, the Kundalini awakening happens, and the dormant Kundalini is blown like a 1,000-petal lotus in our body, which is the ultimate bliss, which can only be practiced or which can only be attained through practice, which is what we talk about here. And this is where the Shatkarmas come into practice. And Shatkarmas are the actual yogic techniques to cleanse the internal organs. And the cleansing takes place in the harmonious flow through the nadis, which you spoke about, right? And why this is important, why Shatkarmas are important, why should the Ida Pingala and the nadis be kept in constant balance? Because the Shatkarma brings a balance to the bodies, and this Tridosha concept we have in our body, which is the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata is associated with the wind or the Vayu Shakti. Pitta is the biles which we have, or anything that we have in our body. The Kapha is the mucus, which is the liquid part, right? Which talks about the Vata is the air, Pitta talks about the solid part, and the Kapha is the mucus, which is the liquid part of the body. So both Ayurveda and Hatha Yoga believes that this is the disease that is caused is because of the imbalance in the three doshas, the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And Ayurveda, again, is a vast concept. I'm just covering a bit of it here in Shatkarmas and the association to it, right? So the Shatkarma are powerful practices that can only be learned from gurus or people who are experienced, but it can never be learned from any books or somebody who teaches without any experience. So they are actually very secret practices that should be done under private supervision with the guidance of an experienced gurus. So the Shat karmas, right? The 6 techniques is what Shat karmas talks about. So those 6 techniques are Dhauti, Bhasti, Neti, Trataka, Nauli, and Kabalpati. So these are the 6 practices that we have for the Shat karmas. So these common practices of Dhauti, which is further broken down into 3. So Dhauti, we have Vaman Dhauti, Dhanda Dhauti, and Vastra Dhauti. So the Dhauti is performed normally for cleaning the digestive tract from the mouth to the stomach. And these 3 practices which we have, the Vaman Dhauti, Dhanda Dhauti, and Vastra Dhauti, it helps us to clear out the digestive tract or the stomach part of the region. And we have the Basti, which is cleansing or cleaning the bowels or the intestine. This is called as the enema, yogis enema, which is called as the Basti. And next one, we have the Neti, which is accepting fluids through the nose, is called Neti. We have the Jal Neti and the Sutra Neti that are the most common practices that we have in Neti. The next one, we have the Trataka. And Trataka is called as steady gazing on any object, Trataka. One of the examples that we can give is you can either concentrate on one of the objects placed in front of without blinking, or the effective practice that we can have is a diya in a closed room, which is a room full of darkness, and just concentrating on the light or the diya. So there are basic 2 types of Trataka, which is the Antaranga Trataka and Bahiranga Trataka. So what we spoke about is one of the Bahiranga Trataka, which is the external one. And Antaranga Trataka is closing your eyes and concentrating on one point, is Antaranga Trataka. The next one, we have the Nauli, which is contracting and isolating the abdominal muscles, the rectus abdominal muscles. And Nauli, again, we have Nauli Kriya, which is a practice. We have the Dakshina Nauli and the other Nauli, the opposite of it, and the middle Nauli Kriya. And the last but not the least, we have the Kabalpati, which is the forceful exhalation and passive inhalation. is called as Kapalabhati. Kapalabhati is also called as the frontal brain cleansing or the skull shining exercise. So these are all the Shat karmas that we have, right? So with this, I am completing the session for today into yoga philosophy, and I'm gonna recite the Shanti part. So let's join our hands and recite the Shanti part. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhavavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Let's rub the palm nicely. Cup your face, your eyes. Look into your palms. Take a deep breath and let's do a Sanjeevani Mudra, and let's give ourselves a big hug. Take a deep breath in. Hug yourself nicely, compassionately. Once again, take a deep breath in. Hug yourself. Again, take a deep breath in. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, any idea why we tell 3 times Om Shanti Shanti Shanti? Or let's take it from Omkara, right? Any idea how does Om started off? Why do we say Om Shanti Shanti Shanti? How did Om start? First of all, we started off the session with an Omkara, right? Why did we do that?
Sir, it started with A, U, and Makara, that Om.
Okay. Is that the only thing why we recite Omkara? What is the ultimate or scientific reason behind Omkara?
Activate
the whole body, mind to
And the
focus.
chakras also.
activate chakras
Okay.
and bodies and hormones.
Came first
Okay.
in the universe. Omkara
That's
came
the-
the universe first time. Omkara.
Yes, that is the one answer that I was looking for. So it is the ultimate reality, or Omkara, or Om, or the A-U M matra that we spoke about, right? It started from the universe, the Hiranyagarbha, when the Big Bang happened, when the universe broke down, right? It broke down with this bang, with this sound, which is the Om. And even in the universe, we have this sound revolving. And recently, when there was a particle or a sun particle left out, right, which came out, it started off with the sound Om. And even the sun that is revolving, they say scientifically the Omkara sound can be heard, which is what NASA talks about these days, right? So it is the very first mantra, or the Bija mantra, which is where it evolved from, which is Omkara, which is why we recite the Om, the Pranava mantra, which is why we recite this Om chanting. And by chanting this, it gives you immense Shakti. It gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you an ultimate bliss. Just practice this for some time, you would understand, right? Sit in a quiet room, chant Omkara 3 times, take a deep breath in, and understand what happens to your body. It gives you a complete energy, it gives you a complete relaxation, and you feel as if you attain a blissful nature. So this is the reason why we start anything with an Om chanting, right? Why do we have to say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti 3 times? We could have ended with just Shanti 1 time, right? Why do we do that? Any idea?
So first Shanti is for the our body, second is for the world, and third for universe.
Okay. Very close, actually. So the reason why we say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti is because these are called as Triveda Duktas, or the threefold miseries. So we have to eliminate or escape ourselves from this threefold miseries, which is called as the Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, and Adi Daivika. So these are the three worldly miseries that we have to relieve ourselves from, which is why we call which is why we recite Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti 3 times. So Adhyatmika is the miseries or grief caused by oneself. Adi Bhautika is the miseries or the grief that comes from other fellow beings. And Adi Daivika is the miseries or the grief that is caused by worldly causes or the natural causes, which is the godly factors, right? Devastation, the fires, the accidents, landslides, or any natural causes. This is why we recite Om Shanti 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 3 times to relieve ourselves from these things, from personal self, from people, and also from the worldly devastation that happens. So we want the place to be a better place. We want the world to be a better place and causing no harm to anyone, right? To neither to ourselves, neither to the people around, neither to the nature. So we are all into this together, which is why we chant this Om Shanti Shanti 3 times. So that is it. Thank you so much once again for listening to me. Thank you so much, Gayatri Aradhya ji. And thank you so much, Uma Maheshwar ji, who guided me and helped me out. And I was part of the AYTD 8th batch. Just like you, I was very curious in this thing. And this platform has given me to expose myself and put my learnings, right? Which is the Guru Dakshina that I can give to AYTT and the teachers that I admire the most. So it's a wonderful place to be. Thank you so much again.
Wonderful
Thank you
session,
so much.
Srivatsanji. Super and very nice and interesting session also. Very nice, very good also. As a
Thank
guru,
you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was really wonderful. The session was very wonderful and lots to learn more and pass it on.
Exactly. So all the homework that you guys have to do is look at all these things and implicate it in your own personal life. It's just not a theory. It's just not knowledge, right? Yes, it is a knowledge, but only when you put that into practice is where you would be able to attain something. It's not for validation or you're not doing this for somebody. It's for your own personal self, right? It's more of a self-learning, swadhyaya, and also practicing that into real life is why we do this. And especially as a yoga teacher and people that you have to become, right? Who you try to inspire and for your own benefit and the world's benefit is why you have to practice this. It is more important. And most importantly, which we said, right? Our culture, the Sanatana Dharma is declining slow by slow with the westernization that is happening place these days. So not many of them pay attention to this. Very few are here, and there are several groups as well which is practicing. We cannot differentiate what it is, but the ultimate goal, right, is to bring out the Sanatana Dharma here.
Yeah.
And never to be
Thank
forgotten our own history. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sanji,
Thank you,
I know
ma'am.
I winded up 15 minutes. I gave back your 15 minutes time. I was supposed to complete by 8:30. So you have that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
No, don't call me sir. You can call me Srivatsan. That's my name. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Super.
thank you.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Good day to everyone. Thank you.
Very
Thank you,
happy.
sir.